LeetCode Problem 20, valid parenthesis. Given a string containing just the following characters, determine if the input string is valid. An input string is valid if 1. Open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets. 2. Open brackets must be closed in the correct order. And 3. Every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same type. Example 1. We can see that the output is true. Example 2, we can see the output is true. And example 3, we can see the output is false, because we don't have corresponding open and closing brackets, and the brackets do not correspond to the same type. The approach that we're going to be taking is called stack-based matching. It has a time complexity of O of n and a space complexity of O of n, and it's the optimal solution to this problem. Now let's walk through an example where we're given the following string with the following characters. Step 1. We want to declare a map to map the parenthesis. The keys in the map are going to be the opening brackets and the values are going to be the corresponding closing brackets. Step 2. Create an empty stack. Step 3. Loop over the string using a for loop, applying the following logic. So we go to the first character, which is an opening bracket, and we check if it's a key in the map, which yes it is. So we want to push that character onto the stack. You can see it here. Then we update the pointer and go to the next character in the string. We check if that's a key in the map, which yes it is. We then want to push that onto the stack. Then we go to the next character in the string. We check if that is a key in the map, which no it's not. So we then want to go and we want to stack pop and store the value. And then we want to check if that value does not equal the corresponding character. Well, it does, so this is not true and we can ignore the return false. We then update the pointer and go to the next character in the string. We check if that is a key in the map, which it is not. So again, we then want to stack pop and store the value. And we want to check if the corresponding character of that value does not equal the current character we're on. We can see they do correspond, so again, we can ignore the return false. We've got to the end of the string, so now we break out of the for loop, and step 4, return true if the stack is empty and false if it's not. We can clearly see the stack is empty, so return true. Well, thank you very much for watching. It's as easy as that. Why not pause the video and try to implement a solution yourself? If not, stay tuned for my solution next. Let's look at LeetCode Problem 20, valid parenthesis, in JavaScript. Given a string S containing just these characters, determine if the input string is valid. If the input string is going to be valid if 1. Open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets. 2. Open brackets must be closed in the correct order. And 3. Every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same type. Example 1. We can clearly see that this is going to be true. We have an open and a corresponding closing bracket of the same type. Example 2. This is our input. We can see our output is going to be true because we have open bracket, closing bracket, open bracket, closing bracket, etc. You can see that's correct. Example 3. You can see that this is false because we have an open and a closing bracket, but they are not of the corresponding type. And then output, example 4, the output is going to be true. You can clearly see that the opening and closing brackets are in the correct order and they are of the same type. So there's 3 edge cases that I can think of. The first edge case is going to be where you're given an empty string. In that scenario, I would return true because obviously the parenthesis cannot be, they can't be wrong if there is no parenthesis, so I'd just automatically return true. The second scenario would be where you're given an odd number in terms of the string's length. In that scenario, you will always return false because if you've got an opening, you always have to have a closing. And that means that you've got to have an even number of characters. A third scenario would be where you are given an even number of characters, but you have a different number of opening versus closing brackets. In that scenario, obviously, it's going to need to return false. And yeah, there are a few edge cases. There are more. But yeah, let's get into the solution. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to declare a map. So we'll call it map. So let map equal new map. Then we'll do map.set, and we will, for map.set, we want to use the key is going to be the opening bracket, and the value is going to be the corresponding closing bracket. So this will go with this square bracket, closing square bracket, and then open curly brace and closing curly brace. Cool. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to declare a stack, and in JavaScript we can use an array for that. And then step 3, we're going to loop over each character in the string. So let I equal 0, I is less than s.length, and then I plus plus. Then we'll say if map.get si. So the current string is a key in the map. It means it's an opening bracket. And we need to push it onto the stack. So stack.push current character. Else it means that we've got a closing bracket, and we need to check that are we closing the corresponding bracket type. So to do that, let's have let val equal stack.pop. So take off what was the last opening bracket we've just seen, and then check if map.get of val. So using the key, which is what we've just popped off the top of the stack, if this doesn't equal the current closing bracket that we're looking at, which is si, if these are not equal, then the parentheses are incorrect, so we'll return false. And then that's everything inside the for loop. Then what we need to do is we need to return stack.length equals 0. So if the stack.length does not equal 0, that means that we've still got some open brackets on the stack, which means we've got unclosed open brackets, which then says that the parentheses are not valid. Whereas if the stack is empty, and we've iterated over all of the items or all of the characters in the string and we haven't returned false, and the stack is empty, it means that we've open and closed all of the parentheses, and if the stack is empty, then we'll just return true. So let's run that. Great. We'll submit, see if it passes the tests. It does pass the tests, and it beats 99.02% in terms of runtime, and it beats 37.95% in terms of memory. So this solution has an O of n runtime and space complexity, and it is the optimal solution to this problem. I hope that this has clarified it for you. And if you like the video, please click like, and if you could click subscribe, that's going to hugely help me and the channel out. And if you've got any comments or anything that you would like producing in the future, please leave them in the comments below and I will get back to you. Thank you very much for watching, and good luck with your coding.